Hi, it's me. I'm here to respond to the comments on my previous video, how smart people lie to you. The first one is from Pascal Wilson, who asks, would you say that this rhetorical strategy is a tricky way of talking down to someone? Full stop, period. So, not sure if I'm supposed to read that as slightly sarcastic or as sincere. I'm going to choose, for the purposes of this video, to interpret it as sincere. And, sorry if I pronounce this wrong. Now to Gaia, who said, go to therapy, dude. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to assume that he means it. And by means it, I of course mean that he is talking down to me. Because to answer Pascal's question, in short, yes. In short, when smart, talented, driven people pretend that they're like you, what they're doing is annihilating difference and removing you of any recourse or explanation for your failings. So it's such a tricky way to talk down to someone that it leaves so much room in interpretation that it's completely plausibly deniable. And it's basically something, I think, the true repercussions of it, the true meaning of it, is only understood by the speaker when with their friends of similar caliber. Which is to say, and I think people are going to understand what I mean when I discuss this, but you can mean something when you're talking to the person you're saying it to, and know in the back of your mind that when you recount the story later, you will mean something else. It is possible to be honest in both of those situations. If you're talking to somebody who genuinely is having a problem understanding something, then in that moment, I, completely buy that most people will be acting primarily on an impulse to want to help them succeed. However, when turning around and speaking with your friends for whom success is already somewhat guaranteed, those conversations take on a different tone. A tone of, and you won't believe what this guy's problem was. He didn't understand this part of it. Like, what's wrong with him? This is all human nature. This is all normal. You need to have these sorts of brief moments of cognitive dissonance in order to participate in society. If you said what you meant 100% of the time, if you acted on that surface belief that's completely and utterly true, in that it motivates your next actions, it would be anarchy. Literally, I do believe. Road rage would be murder. It would be unsafe to go outside, because if somebody meant it as you mean it, when you shout at someone in your car, I hope an accident happens to you. I hope someone hurts you. If you can fathom that emotion that you genuinely have of wishing harm upon that person, and also understand that deep down, admittedly, you don't want to murder them, nor witness their death, then you understand what I'm saying. Which is that H-bomber guy, since this is our original example, can mean in a way full of pity that he does feel as stupid as you must feel at times. But what he's accomplishing isn't just drawing an empathetic bridge. He's annihilating difference. And this is something that comes up a lot more, I would say, in a much more damaging way in race relations. People are trying to talk about the systemic oppression certain people face, and then somebody pops up with anecdotes, oh, well, my cousin, he's white, and he has this problem and that problem, and he has to deal with this too. So, bingus bonkus, your argument for systemic oppression is destroyed. Annihilating difference. Now, I'm not going to wholeheartedly throw my weight behind the argument that disdain for the weak and the stupid and the wretched is a greater societal ill than systemic racism. Not the point I'm trying to make. But I will say that when that comes up in conversations of systemic racism, it's easier to spot now. I think even people who are generally out of the loop on those sorts of conversations, who aren't as plugged in as, your average Bernie telecaller. Hi. Canvasser would have been the better word, telecanvasser. Even your average run-of-the-mill white suburban mom can kind of notice that sort of thing now when applied to matters of race. I think the conversation of systemic racism has gotten wide enough that people generally understand that when someone's trying to convey to you their lived experience as a person of color, and you attempt to annihilate the difference between them and you as a white person by saying, I've had my hardships too, people generally catch that and say, wait a second, I'm not super comfortable with that rhetorically. That seems like a cheat. That seems like you're dancing around what that person's actually trying to say. My point is that the same tactic is used when speaking with the stupid and the ignorant, and it's harder to notice, or rather, fewer people are trained to notice it. And this brings me to Mr. DeGaia's comment, go to therapy, dude. Which is obviously, if we look at the words of the sentence, good advice. If you prescribe to that particular brand of mental health treatment, then that's good advice that somebody's offering, presumably out of concern for my health. You seem very upset about this. Perhaps speaking with a therapist would be healthy for you. But practically, we understand the gulf in meaning between perhaps you should consider therapy, have you talked to anybody about that, and go to therapy, dude, which is dismissive, which is basically functioning the same way as what I was trying to describe in that video. Words that mean one thing, but functionally convey something else as well. Words that mean look after yourself, but mean actually convey the things you're concerned about are fucking stupid. Your problems aren't real problems. You have imagined them, and you need to pay gratuitous amounts of money until you can get a ticket that says you no longer care about those problems. Until you brain kill yourself with the help of a, fully licensed medical professional into believing that you don't care about this thing anymore. Once you have brainwashed yourself sufficiently, then you know what? You'll be at my level, which is I already recognize that that's obviously good. I've already recognized that about you. I know you better than you know yourself. You don't know what you're talking about. Go to therapy, dude. There are, I think, equal ways of destroying somebody's argument. They're essentially ad hominems, right? you've brought up this as a concern, this makes you troubled, you know what, go to therapy. Because that problem isn't a real problem. It's a problem in your mind. It's a problem with your mind. And tying it back to, the topic at hand, the sort of kid loving of the stupid. Oh, I'm stupid too. Go to therapy. Because look at me. I had brain problems and I did some therapy and now I'm better. Without really taking into consideration the idea that perhaps this person's problems are worse than your problems. I found a solution to problems that are apparently, on a surface level similar to yours, and the fact that you haven't found those solutions yet, that illustrates, how ignorant and stupid you are. But that's okay, because I was ignorant and stupid once too. Sometimes I drop things. I'm not perfect. I've just figured out this much more essential social, cultural, healthful building block of life that you, through some sheer confluence of ignorance and arrogance, have been able to avoid learning about. And so these two kind of rhetorical devices are what make it so aggravating to deal with what can, one should only presume to be well-intentioned people. The fact that they, by definition, are so far ahead of you on this, pay attention and you'll notice how many conversations take that tone. By design in liberal and leftist and progressive circles. Like, they are rarely, truly, in my experience, let's have a conversation. And even when they are, let's have a conversation, very quickly lines are drawn between the people who have it figured out and the people who just need to shut up, listen, and go to therapy. And that's okay, because, we've all made mistakes too. I, at one point, was ignorant. I am not perfect. I did not emerge from the amino pod fully grown. However, look at yourself and look at me. Look who's sitting and listening. Look who's standing and talking. Look who is in their bed watching a video essay for the umpteenth time, and look at who is being watched by millions of people. The context that these comments are made matters. Who is saying these things matters. And when somebody who you have come to, whose video you have sought out to appreciate their insight and their research acumen and their intellect, when they turn around and say, actually, I'm not that smart. Well, if you're not that smart, and you're smarter than me because I'm looking to you for information that I don't have, then what the fuck does that make me? Oh, just one of us. One of the gang. However, also, shut up. Because you're one of the weirdos. And if this upsets you, go to therapy. If this upsets you, figure out what I already know. And there's that undercurrent of impatience in leftist discourse generally that I find. It's not my responsibility to explain this to you. It's right there if you were bothered to go looking for it. And I think it really only hurts the people that society has decided deserve it, which is the stupid, the ignorant, the emotionally stunted, the confused, because to grant somebody the charity of, let's just assume that, you are weaker than me in some regard, and that facilitates your inability to understand what I understand. That's, I don't think, a very leftist ideal in modern parlance. You wouldn't say to somebody, it's not okay to say to somebody, even in a compassionate way, you are my lesser, and therefore your ideas are inferior to mine, and that's all right. Right? Like, that's not a very progressive thought in the least. That's terrifying to wield. But then the alternative is, listen, there is not a possibility that you are inferior to me. I am also stupid, like you are. And if you are incapable of accomplishing what I've accomplished, us both, as I've established, being equally stupid, if you can't do what I've done, it's some other problem with you. It's not a failure of you as you are, or your potential. It's a waste. It's a failure of willpower. It's a failure of work ethic. It's not just a matter of you never had it in you, but that's okay. It's a matter of, listen, everybody has this inside of them. Some people just fucking squander it. No one has an excuse. Everybody, is equally gifted. Everybody should be equally successful. And if, unfortunately, it's not the case. There are stupid people, like me. There are people with, one voice too many in their heads. There are people who don't trust themselves. There are people who shouldn't trust themselves. And with this attempt at a merciful outlook, with this attempt at compassion by saying, but that doesn't make anybody better than anybody else, I think you've actually accomplished the opposite of compassion. You've accomplished quite a remarkable cruelty. You have accomplished a way of talking down to people so tricky that most people in the conversation don't realize that's what's happening. And it can only really be appreciated after the fact, when one party is talking to a third party with whom they are truly equals. I think can that exchange of power be acknowledged. Right? If smart person A is talking and dumb person B is listening, and then dumb person B says, wait a minute, what you just said, that you were talking down to me, that made me really uncomfortable. Why? I didn't say anything mean or cruel or untrue. For example, you could be smart too. That's a nice thing to say. You should go to therapy. That's a nice thing to say. But then dumb person 1 can go over to their friend dumb person 2. I think that guy was talking down to me. What did he say? Oh, he said that, my life's not that hard because his life isn't hard. Or that, to the extent that his life is hard, he is capable of dealing with it. So either, I'm just not able to deal with it, or my life is harder, but my life isn't harder, so that just means I'm just not able to deal with it. That sounds like talking down to me. Yeah, I guess that does sound like talking down to me. And then smart person 1 goes over to smart person 2. I was talking to this guy, and you would not believe the shit he still believed about the world. It's crazy. Huh. Did you tell him to go to therapy? Anyway. Those are the comments on how smart people lie to you. I feel like I've addressed them in full. Something that was kind of tangential that I wanted to get into in this conversation but decided not to is the general concept of taking advice, and how it is a waste of time. So look forward to that one, and look forward to me coming off completely insane, and then after that I will do my takedown of therapy and everyone will tell me to go to therapy, and we'll all just have a fucking blast.